Hey everyone, welcome to an actual play of Home. This is going to be a 2-player game. My name is Nick, I'm the designer of Home, and I'm here with my friend Matt Latham. Hey Matt, thanks for joining me, I really appreciate it.
Hey, happy to be here. I'm always down for some Mech versus Kaiju action.
Yeah, totally. So for those interested, Matt was a huge help in some of the design and playtesting of this, so I really appreciate the chance to kind of get to go through some of this with you. But let's jump into it right away. So we're going to play through one front of Home. We're going to just kind of focus and go through the game kind of as is. So really, let's start it off by reminding everybody what happened 1 year ago. One year ago, the rift opened and the Kaiju attacked. It tore our cities apart, rampaging for days until we finally dropped the bomb. We killed the beast, but lost so much in the process. We knew this was only the beginning, and so we built the Mechs, giant war machines, the pinnacle of human engineering, and our only hope for survival. The rift is reopening. More Kaiju are coming, but this time will be different. Your home depends on you. Are you ready, pilot? I don't know. Are you ready, Matt?
Oh, I'm ready.
Awesome. So we've done that, and now really we need to. You've already got your pilot sheet, your map. The map sheet is in the middle here of the table. And just for folks who are wondering, we're recording this, we're playing this on Miro whiteboard. But you can play this on any virtual tabletop. We've got our pilot sheets and the map template kind of already loaded into our virtual tabletop, and we're going to be rolling dice kind of locally for this as well. But since everything is kind of set up, we need to figure out who's going to go first, and that's the person who's closest to their home. Who's closest to their home, Matt? Me or you?
Well, I am literally visiting my childhood home.
Wow.
I am sitting in my sister's room at the moment, but I think, I would say that I'm closest to home, most likely.
Yeah, that's actually really funny. Perfect. Okay, you are the first one up then. So you're gonna start, and then we'll go around the table that way. Let's start by creating our home. So the first thing that we need to do is you need to choose a section of the home map that is your home. And so we should all have an equal or a similar sized section. Which part of the map do you want? Which part's your home?
I'm thinking I'm going to pick this north east island here. I like this big bay that's kind of pulled in here. I think that's going to be my home. Okay,
so you're gonna pick the top right part of the map. I mean, since it's the two of us, you could pick two islands or two continents if you want, or we could leave.
Leave.
Yeah, it's up to you.
Yeah, I like the idea of having two islands. I'll be the north because I think I've had that south
nice.
That southeastern one before.
Nice. So you are the top two islands, and I am going to be the bottom two. So sweet, that's awesome. Now, since you are the top of the map and I am the bottom of the map, we have our home. We need to pick a playbook, a unique playbook. Do you know who you wanna play today?
Yeah, I'm gonna be the Royals.
Sweet.
My plan.
Sweet. Yeah, the Royal's awesome. I'm really excited about that. I think I am going to be the engineer. I've got an excitement to see what kind of prototypes and weird stuff the engineer comes up with today. Awesome. Okay. So now that we have our home selected, maybe we'll kind of walk through these and we'll each of us kind of create our home, starting with a name for our home. So do you have a name for your home that you want?
Yeah, I was actually imagining Grom is the name for my home nation.
Cool. Interesting.
It's an ancient name. I think my home has grown very far past Grom, but
sounds like
the lineage remains.
Yeah, sounds like Royal Orcs or something. I think. So I think mine is going to be the Empire of Lys, LYS. So yeah, I feel like I have a whole empire that's down in the south of this world.
Nice.
What is your home known for? And again, you can roll on your playbook, or you can choose. I think I might roll.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll actually. I think that would be a good
Ooh.
direction to go. Oh, I got a 5. So my home is known for the catacombs.
Sweet, sweet. I'm curious to learn what those are. What those are in a second. I got a 6. So off of my playbook, I have a methodical culture. That's cool. Okay, an engineer with a methodical culture from an empire. Okay. All right. Interesting. Now the next thing that we need to do is we need to draw 5 locations within our home, and each of these locations should have a name. So why don't we take a couple seconds and we'll draw these out. Remember that locations could be cities, they could be important cultural sites or infrastructure, they could be anything really. Cities kind of make the most sense, but they don't need to be. And from a kind of meta point of view, these are the hit points for your home. So if you lose all 5 of these cities, then your home is lost at the end.
Okay, I'm trying to imagine. I think I'm going to start with the catacombs, actually. I'm trying to imagine how they fit into my home, and I think I've got a cool idea for that.
Nice.
So, let's see.
So let's take a quick look now that we have the 5 locations in each of our homes. Actually, before we take a quick look, there is one more important thing that we need to do. Now, like we said at the beginning, this is 1 year after that first kaiju invasion, which means that each of us have one city that is destroyed. Can you put an X through the city that was lost in that first kaiju attack?
Yeah, I think that, so for Gorm, the first city that was destroyed was the closest to the rift, which is Civita 11.
Oh, nice.
This is one of the largest cities throughout Gorm,
Sweet.
a densely populated metropolis.
Of course. All right. I'm actually gonna do a follow suit to that. I think it is the closest to the center of that, where we know the rift is going to be. I have a nice little city down here that I'll tell you about in a second called New Valen, and New Valen I think was destroyed by that first kaiju attack. So I'm going to give that a cross out. So, all right. I think we've got some pretty interesting homes set up here. Matt, can you tell me a little bit about your home Gorm and the locations and such within it?
Yeah. So Gorm is a advanced society that is based predominantly on manufacturing and sort of like industry and technology, but it's not all produced within Gorm. They're kind of like they're diplomatic and they have great relations with the rest of the world, and they are very much like a society that is based on family lineage. So there are certain like 5 houses that essentially are the lords or like rulers of Gorm.
Oh, cool.
And those houses have existed for generations and generations, like centuries. And Gorm, the name, it originates in the catacombs. So I think within Gorm, these catacombs are actually what housed the mechs. And so in Gorm, these houses, the sort of power that the leaders of these houses have is that they all have some of these mechs that were originally sourced from the catacombs, and only certain bloodlines can actually power the mechs. And so
that's cool.
yeah, yeah. And so like, so the heads of the houses, they each have one of these like mechs. Maybe some of them have 2. I don't know exactly, but and they all come from the catacombs of Gorm. So there's a certain kind of like reverence for Gorm. I'm not going to define exactly what Gorm is. I think it's kind of cooler to leave it open. Like, but there's a reverence within the nation for the catacombs of Gorm and the technology that's passed down as like a relic through these great houses. I think the rest of society is, as I said, almost like a a sort of pseudo futuristic, just like industrialized nation with like big sprawling cities that are sort of brutalist and practical in their architecture, but with, bright lights and all sorts of amenities of an established sort of driven culture that Gorm is.
Cool. So it's interesting. You're playing a royal playbook, which is all about royalty, but are you saying that there's kind of like 5 equal royal houses in this, or is there like one kind of overarching leader?
So I think that it's a balance of 5 houses, like almost like a diplomatic sort of feudal equilibrium between the 5 houses. I'm imagining that my pilot is going to be one house, and that the other houses kind of fall into the background.
Yeah.
But you know, it gives me something I could source
That's cool.
for like other pilots and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's really cool. What about Civita 11? I want to know a little bit about this place that was destroyed.
Yeah, I think Civita 11 was the biggest of all the cities within Gorm. And I think the 11 aspect of it, Gorm is constantly being driven forward by these houses. And every one of the cities is sort of under the dominion of like one or two of the houses, and there's iterations that they go through. And so Civita 11 was actually like one of the most, if not, it was the most advanced city in Gorm. There were, I imagine, like millions and millions of people there, and it was sort of the gem of the entire culture. This was a place where even if there are certain houses that are at odds with each other over certain places in Gorm, in Civita, it was like a bastion of sort of peace and like a safe space for everyone to commune and interact with each other. And so the loss of it was tragic in the sense that it was like such a gem, but also it introduced like a certain amount of just conflict and chaos into Gorm is
Cool.
what I imagine. Yeah.
So it's awesome. That's really cool. I love Gorm. I hope Gorm doesn't die. Awesome. Anything else you wanna say about your home?
I can. So, do you want to know anything about some of these other locations?
Why don't you tell me just like a quick key thing about each of those other important kind of locations?
Yeah. So, when we get to our pilot, I imagine that the house that my pilot belongs to is essentially like a defense organization, a defense manufacturing house. Like they build and make sort of implements of war. And their home of operation is Spire 7. The Nexus 3, that's a factory that is essential to this house and their creation of like various implements of war and defensive structures and all sorts of stuff that sort of powers the military of Gorm. And Artis 5 is another one of these beautiful bastions of just kind of culture. It's sort of, I would say, the second most sort of safe and advanced city of Gorm after Civita 11.
Cool. Nice. And it's got a sweet dome, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, Gorm sounds awesome. Okay. Can I tell you a little bit about the Empire of Lys?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the Empire of Lys, known for its methodical culture. I imagine since you have all of these kind of houses that are above in the northern part of this little part of the world that we're in, I imagine that the Empire of Lys was probably like some houses back in the day that were maybe, within your ring of, influence or, within that. But they broke off. Maybe they decided that they would become a separate empire for reasons I'm not too sure yet. But it was long ago. I think that the underlying tensions may still be there, but in general, we might have some decent relationships still.
Totally.
Especially if I love the idea of the mechs coming from the catacombs of Gorm, and if I wanted to build mechs, then we'd have to maybe either ask you for those or share that information with each other, or maybe we like stole it from you. I don't know. I feel like we could figure that out.
Totally. I think any of those would be possible. Like one detail about Gorm is that the house leaders a lot of them actively are opposed to modifying the mechs that came from the catacombs of Gorm. So I think there's a big opportunity for Lise to like really expand on that, or like learn about that technology, because there's not a ton of appetite for it in Gorm.
Let's go with a slightly antagonistic relationship here. Let's say that the Empire is not super friendly with the houses above, like cordial, but like a little bit of tension. And the Empire at some point did show up, did unveil their mech that we'll talk about in a second, and it was like everyone's pretty sure that they stole the blueprints from Gorm. How about that?
Love it. Yes.
Sweet. Okay. So the Empire of Lys, there is a capital city called Lys, down kind of nestled between these two little mountain areas down here. Walled city, protected, high-rise, skyscrapers, an advanced city. Everyone does well because everything is methodical. All the trains are on time. All the floating cars are tuned to automatic settings that are all perfectly aligned. Everything is like to a T. Within the Empire. So Lys, we've got the free port down here, which is a large shipping port where different materials go around the world in and out of the Empire. We have the Black Plains, which was a large land kind of plain area where all these kind of weird black, regoliths or monoliths or something, like these black crystals almost grew out of the plains. And obviously those are some kind of sweet material that are getting harvested by these engineers. So it's not necessarily a city, but like a location that is super important to our home. Over at the top of this mountain, we have High Tovar. Again, a little city, but it's actually has these big windmills, which seem a little bit archaic and out of date, that there be windmills in such an advanced city. But I don't know. I think the engineers are like 2 steps ahead of everybody, and they're thinking of something else and using those windmills for something else.
Oh, I like that. I like that you're not explaining that right now.
Yeah. Sure. I'm sure I'll come up with an idea by the time it matters. And last but not least, of course, we had New Valen. New Valen was a nice little city on this island. Still methodical, still beautiful, still quite advanced. Lots of probably vacationing that was going there. As an aside, whenever I play this game, someone always puts something on this island, and it's always like Vacation Island, which I love. It's so good. But New Valen was the closest to the rift, so it obviously is the one that got leveled a year ago. So I think that's the Empire of Lys.
I love it. I also the references of these names are not lost on me, Nick. I
Great.
feel like these remind me a little bit of something.
Yeah, perfect. We've played D&D for a long time, so some of these names might be important for Matt. Awesome. Cool. So we've got our homes. The next thing that we need to do is we need to create our pilot. So there's kind of 3 things that we need to do. We need to name our pilot. We need to choose a connection for our pilot, which is something that keeps you going in your darkest of hours. You know, it could be a family, friends, pet, spiritual attachment, whatever. And then we're gonna do a little scene of envisioning our pilot with their connection, maybe sometime prior to all of this happening or something. So Matt, why don't we start with you? Can you tell me a little bit about your pilot?
Yeah, I think so. My pilot, her name is Lily Seraphim, and she's of the house Seraphim. So, like I mentioned, the house that I'm imagining for Lily is like they're a technology organization, but they're like focused on military manufacturing and basically provisioning the armies of Gorm. And Lily is the youngest of her whole family, and she's kind of the black sheep. So her mother is the CEO, the kind of president of Serapco, which is this like organization that's essentially the the main operation of the family. And her father is actually the one who has the bloodline that allows him to pilot the mech of the family. And so together they've got those two kind of things. And what I imagine is that she's the youngest of, let's say, 5 kids. And she has 4 other siblings. Let's say that she has only brothers. And she ends up being this kind of black sheep individual where everyone else in her family, they sort of focus on just the house. They want to they want to like take over the operation from their mom, or they want to kind of be the next pilot of the mech suit. They want to be the next like sort of figurehead of the house, because the people who pilot the mech suits, they end up being like these real kind of heroic figures of the house. They're really the figurehead. Mm-hmm. And so Lily, she's always been just kind of on the outskirts of that because she was because she's the youngest. And I think she's also just got a real chip on her shoulder that she likes to do her own thing, and she's like fiercely individualistic and is annoyed when her family tries to like draw her into their own affairs if it's not kind of her choice to do that. So she is like, this is my life and I'm going to do my own thing. And so that has created a little bit of this like rift in her family and whatnot. So I think that's where I would put Lily at the start of all this. I don't know if you want me to go into any more detail here,
No,
Nick,
that's sweet. Yeah. So Lily, she's rank 1 pilot. Why is she the youngest and is the pilot of the mech? Like, why is she the one doing this fighting if she's the youngest?
Well, I've got an idea for that, and that was going to be when I envision kind of her connection.
Cool.
I've got a thought for that.
Nice. I'm interested to see that. Yeah, that's really cool. I like that she's the youngest and kind of like a bit of a rebel against the royals, or maybe her family.
Because that's what I'm imagining is like. So I'm gonna say that. I'll get into what her connection is, but I'm imagining. When the rift first opens, Lily is like on the other side of Gorm. And so what I imagine, she's in, she's in Artis 5. And so I'm almost imagining this like sort of scene where there's the sound of just kind of this like, this loud, sort of strange noise that's roaring as though like through kind of walls, and just like a rise and fall of like lights, and it escalates and escalates and escalates, and I think it culminates with like Lily throwing off her hood and she's walking into the ring of like an underground boxing match. And so the sound, as it like gets louder and louder and louder, it's clear that they're chanting like Lil, 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 Lil. And when she comes out, they just like, this crowd screams out Beast. And I think her nickname is Lil Beast. And and when she steps into this ring, she's against this opponent who's like twice her size. She's, I imagine, like not a really huge person. And so she comes in this ring and there's this massive opponent, and they are going through this boxing match where she's carefully just like maneuvering around, dodging, getting in punches, and staggers them a couple times. But then I think their hand goes back and they just land one real just pummeling blow that knocks her right out. And so everything goes dark for her. And I think that same kind of like rise and fall of lights is happening in her mind. And I think that's what I sort of imagine is like the skyline of Civet 11 as something is rising out of the sea behind it. And it's kind of this like dreamlike moment where she just sees this in her mind's eye before everything goes dark. And then I think she wakes up and she's in like the hospital, and her mom is there, and she's like, "Nice of you to travel all this way just to scold me." And her mom says nothing, but just like takes her hand and says, "There's something I have to tell you." And I think that that's her first experience after the rift opens.
Cool.
Where what I imagine is that her father and all of her brothers were killed in Civita 11, leaving only her.
Holy. Whoa. That's wild. First off, I love Lil Beast. I think that's amazing. That's so cool. So who's her connection then out of all of this?
I'm thinking, so what do you think? I'm imagining that her connection is like, in a way, her father, her dead father and brothers, and that there's part of her that feels just like a lot of regret that she like wasn't there, that all this sort of stuff, like that they were at odds at the time that they died, and there's a part of her that's also feeling very like vengeful. And so that's sort of what I imagine. But also her mother is the only person of her family that also remains in this world. So I'm a little torn between those two. I'm thinking of putting her dead father and brothers as her main connection, and I think her mom will also be involved, but just not as a specific connection.
Yeah, that's cool. I think I like living connections are always cool because they could end up dying later on, but I think dead connections always make a lot of sense too, because it's like a very clear thing that you're fighting for. Yeah, that's great. Sweet.
Yeah. Well, maybe I might just generally make her connection the Seraphim family, and then I can sort of source both of those things.
Yeah, that's sweet. That's awesome. I'm really curious to see if she's a boxer, I'm really curious to see what her mech looks like.
Yeah.
That's cool. Sweet. Shall I introduce my pilot?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So, let's hop over here. So my pilot's name is going to be Kit Green. Kit, him is, I think, young 30 something, a pretty bright, resourceful, individual. I think, certainly because of their ability and their knowledge and everything that they've demonstrated kind of growing up within this very methodical culture, a lot of the leadership within the Empire probably trusts Kit. And I imagine that Kit is a pretty personable individual. And, there might have been something to do with Kit in stealing the mech blueprints or the mech information from Grom, I think. So Kit is a fairly charismatic, but like, I don't know, maybe a little bit of like a dark side to them. They certainly have no qualms with taking information. Although I don't know how much your empire or your home knows about it. I imagine that you're pretty smart. You would know these things. So Kit is pilot rank 1, obviously. Their connection is their friend Sola, because I think Kit's family probably passed away a long time ago. I think it wasn't an issue with the rift opening or the first kaiju attack. I think Kit hasn't had a family in a long time, and perhaps this is why he's thrown himself so deeply into working for his leadership. But his friend Sola, Sola's friend, kind of in quotes, because they're definitely the closest person that Kit is with in real life, but they're kind of like rivals. I think that they compete in pretty much everything in that kind of friendly way. Um, and I think that there is I think there's a scene. Let's say that it's let's see, where is this scene gonna be? Let's say that it's actually in Liss. It's shortly after uh, Kit has returned from perhaps stealing or taking the blueprints for the mechs from Grom, and I believe that Kit is coming out of the Empire's government building, and I think Sola is sitting on the steps waiting for him, and I think it's a very like there's no words that are spoken. I think it's just a look between the two, a little smirk on Kit's face, and Sola gives a little smirk back, but you can see that Sola is a little angry in a playful way that Kit was so successful at this and is probably got like the good graces of the leadership. So I think that's the relationship between Kit and Sola, kind of like friend rivals. Yeah, yeah. I think that's it.
I like that. So it's and it sounds like Liss is an interesting contrast to Gorm too. That like Gorm so much is about like family and like even like a little nepotistic kind of element, but it sounds like Liss is much more like a sort of free just society of like what can you do and like people associate with each other if they're like, you know, would you say that like Kit and Sola are kind of close friends because they like work together then, or?
I think they're close friends because they're both equally skilled. I think you nailed it on the head, right? I think Grom or Gorm is like you said, based on family and maybe like nepotism and things like that. Whereas Liss is very much the opposite swing of the pendulum, where it's about merit and methodical execution, and those are the only things that matter. So it's kind of that opposite spectrum, which is kind of cool. And I think that because both Sola and Kit are so good at what they do, I think that that's why they're friends, and also obviously enemies because they're both capable in very strong ways.
Awesome.
Yeah, sweet. So I feel like we got two semi-fleshed out pilots. That's awesome. We've got some connections, some things that are going to keep them going. Let's build our mechs. So let's hop over to you first. I'm really curious what Lily's mech is going to be.
Yeah, I want to roll for it.
Yeah, do it.
I have some ideas, but so I'm gonna start. I want to roll the name last because I might pick a name, but I'm gonna do primary weapon first. So I got a 2, which is a relic weapon. So relic weapon. I think that that what the mech has is there's actually like a in the so in the Seraphim tower there is like a relic like weapon, like almost like a museum of like reliquary weapons. And I think that there's a selection of different ones. And so I don't know if I want to get into like a scene of what it is, but there's sort of an element of when decking this mech out with a weapon, it's sort of up to the person who has the suit to choose one of these relic weapons from the armory that were recovered from the catacombs of Gorm.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, you'll do us a little scene end showing off your mech. So I mean, you could kind of put it all together then if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll do the auxiliary system next. So a solar shield. So I think that when the sun touches this mech, I think that I like to imagine that when Civita 11 was destroyed, the whole city was like leveled, and because this mech suit was there, it's one of the few things that's like just kind of remaining in the debris, and it had to be recovered. But like when the sun touches it, there's a kind of like shield that protects it, but also it burns off all of the things on it. So when it's found, it's like gleaming metal that's like shining in the sun, where everything else is covered in like ash or just kind of debris.
Cool. That's cool.
So, and in terms of the name, I think I actually am gonna roll for it. So let's see what we got. Exarch. I like that. So it is Exarch.
Cool. Did you mention your frame?
Yeah, my frame is ornate.
Cool.
I did not mention it, but yeah.
Yeah. So paint us a little scene of maybe, I don't know, showing off this mech, maybe showing your pilot seeing it for the first time, or your pilot doing a bit of training with it, or anything really. Showcase the mech.
I think the scene I imagine is that there's almost like a logistical montage of this mech is like extracted from the debris, and it has to be transported back to the Spire 7, and Lily arrives at Spire 7 and is brought into where the mech is being stored, and there's that like wall of armaments, and I think this is the first time that she's been home in quite a while, since like the feuding between her and her family has begun. And as she returns, it's a strange experience to see the mech that used to belong to her father empty, and there's like a whole bunch of these corporate techs that are basically there to prepare her to like inherit this thing, and she has to select one of the reliquary weapons. And I think I'm just trying to imagine along the lines of like her being a boxer. There's like, you know, there's a sword, there's like this hammer, there's this crazy like chain whip, and then at the end, I think what I'm imagining is that there are you know, like I think it's called like a katars, which are like,
Yeah.
they're sort of like brass knuckles, but with like long blades that extend out from them.
Yeah, I've played Diablo. I know what those are.
Exactly. I think right at the end, there's two of those, and she looks at them and just like nods slowly. And I think that's
sweet.
yeah.
Sweet. So yeah,
I will note this on my sheet.
that's awesome. Exarch, ornate, relic weapon, and solar shield. That's really cool. That's an awesome interpretation of solar shield. I love that. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna roll a little bit. I think
I was gonna say what secrets have you stolen from the, the ancient technology of Gorm?
So I mean, yeah. So we'll start with the frame. I mean, the frame is advanced, obviously, but I mean, I think it's advanced because we took it. And you didn't you say that you didn't like messing with your mechs, like you didn't want to change things, or you're reticent to change things, something like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's like tradition over everything else. We're the exact opposite. We're like, it must be a finely tuned machine, and so this mech has been modified and advanced, obviously. Let's check out my weapon. I'm gonna roll. I got a 6, an arc light generator. Cool. I'm gonna think about what that looks like in a second. I'm gonna roll for my auxiliary system. Extra limbs. Sweet.
Of course. Why would they have 2 limbs? Come on.
Just
when you could have.
I mean,
more.
it makes a lot of sense, right? Especially if I'm making this advanced and we're like kind of bastardizing your original mech design. And obviously we're gonna improve it. Cool. And the name is Luna Helix. Okay, so let's think about this for a second. I imagine that it's a short time after that scene with Sola and Kit on the steps of their government kind of like building or government area, and I think that Kit is now entering into a massive construction kind of warehouse, a big area where they're basically working solely on this mech because it's, the primary one, the first one that was taken. In the shadows, behind, you see a couple other variants that are in slight amounts of amounts of like construction. Some of them have just legs, some of them have different arms. You can see different configurations and colors in them. But the one in the center, the one that obviously the lights are all pointing onto, is Luna Helix. The frame is advanced, so whereas your mechs, what does your ornate frame kind of look like?
I think that there's like the overall silhouette of it looks like sleek and paneled and like sort of rounded, but when you get in close, I think it's sort of like etched brass. Like it's intricate details. There are like patterns and sort of like symbols and like diagrams that are etched into it that completely cover the surface of it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I think all of that still exists on this mech, but it's all hidden underneath like our reinforced black armor plating that has been made from the black planes. Obviously, you see these like different tubes and wires of different flowing liquids that kind of go within different parts of the mech that are glowing in like a light kind of tealish blue color. So everything that was like sacred and ornate and fancy about yours is covered on this one with advanced, meticulously put together armor and systems. I think the extra limbs, so obviously it has 2 arms that are down at the side, but it has 2 extra arms that are kind of hanging down behind it, like a second set that is just a little bit set back. And I think that there is an engineer who's standing with Kit, and can tell that Kit is pretty impressed with what this is. Has a little smile, that trademark smirk on Kit's face, and the engineer says, "Just wait, watch this." And he gives a little nod to someone else, and they fire up the arc-like generator. And I think that the hands begin to glow, and I think all 4 of the hands kind of create this arc of electricity that kind of feeds between all 4 of them. And basically
Nice.
How you can move the hands in different ways, like creates this kind of cool electricity arc. So it's kind of like, super powered electricity between 4 different limbs. And yeah,
Awesome.
Kit loves it. Kit's like, this is going to be great. This is going to be great. There's no way I can lose. Yeah, that's Luna Helix.
That's
I don't
awesome.
think.
And were you saying, is Luna Helix the first of the mechs in Liss? Is that
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Nice.
I mean, I think that it's they're meticulous. I'm sure that they do prototypes and all of that stuff, but this one is the prototype that has been fixed up. It's the one that people have had the most reps on. And I think there's a bit of a time crunch, right? Because there's a year between this, and I feel like they have to go with Luna Helix for it. So yeah.
Awesome.
Sweet. Cool. Yeah, great. Okay, we have some mechs here. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to establish the front. And like we said, we're just going to play through one front today. So we're going to start with the first one, which is the blockade. So let me read you a little stuff here. It has been 1 year since the first invasion. The past year has been hard. Engineers barely slept as they built the mechs. Pilots spent countless hours in training. Scientists studied the rift with every possible sensor. We've prepared the blockade, the emergency shelters, and the warning systems. We've pushed as if every day was our last, because it very well could have been. The wailing sirens mean the day has come, and the rift is open again. We have no idea when they will arrive, but it's inevitable now. The Kaiju are coming. We need to keep them within the blockade and away from the cities. We need to stop them before they reach our home. It's time to show us what your mech can do, pilot. Good luck. So we have mechs that are now ready for combat. I mean, I don't know how much combat they've seen before this, but they both have 2 health. It's a pretty good amount of health, but it's not a lot of health, considering that scans indicate a Nova class Kaiju that has 3 health, so it's stronger, at least health-wise, than our mechs. This Kaiju is more powerful than the first invasion. If it defeats your mech, it will destroy 2 locations or upgrades. So obviously the first one destroyed 1 city. This one's more powerful, so if we fail in our task at the end, it will destroy 2 locations. Now, we haven't been complacent, so we get to draw a starting upgrade somewhere in our home. So we each have a starting upgrade from our playbook that we're going to start with. What's yours, Matt? What's your starting upgrade?
Mine is a monument.
Sweet.
So
Do you have an idea of what you want to do for that?
I'm thinking that so it's back closer to Spire 7, where with the loss of, or maybe it's closer to Artist V. So with the loss of Civita 11, the Seraphim family, they erect a giant sort of structure that is devoted to research into the kaiju, but also is like named after the father and brothers of the Seraphim. Like it's the Seraphim Research Institute.
Nice. That's cool.
What about in Liss?
So in Liss, I think that with the engineer, my starting upgrade is a manufacturing facility. So I think that it's the equivalent of the Pacific Rim Shatter Dome. It is the place where where Luna Helix was built. And heck, let's make it a dome. You have a domed place. I think dome places are cool. Let's call it. It's not the Shatter Dome. I feel like that's copyright infringement. Let's say,
Ooh, I like the drawing of this you got here, Nick. Solid.
Thanks. Let's just call it the dome. And for those who are wondering, these upgrades are a little bit different than locations. They basically allow you to buff up your preparation moves that you're going to be making in a little bit. So cool. I got a couple of questions for us. First off, who is your home's closest ally or sworn enemy?
Ooh, I mean, Well, I think that if I were to talk about the Seraphim, I think that there's another house that they would consider their rivals, which is, I want to say the Legazi household.
Nice.
Where do I write that? Is that necessary to write down here, Nick?
Nope. It's okay. We're just building out some world stuff here. Yeah.
It's the Legazi household.
Cool.
But there is like a growing department that is starting to pick up on the sort of theft of confidential secrets from various houses, and I think that that Lily's mother is currently like more or less ignoring them, but they're starting to become more and more difficult to ignore as proof mounts. So I don't think anyone has the spotlight on Lise yet, but I think that it's at the precipice that could happen anytime.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just wait till we show off the mech and then we'll see.
Yeah. Too many arms on that mech. How dare they?
I think same thing. Like a lot of our allies are probably off of this map, right? We have our ships, we have our ports, we send goods and services elsewhere. We're very methodical at that, but we still trade with you. I mean, we still are probably friendly on paper, and I think that there's just like an underlying, ancestral distrust, and rightly so, considering that we literally stole your mech blueprints. I feel like that's pretty accurate. Cool.
Yeah.
How did your home help create the blockade? Feel free to draw something on the map if you want. Do you think Gorm did anything specifically to help the blockade?
Yeah, I think Gorm has a pretty substantial military. I think that it's it's not like drones and robots and stuff like that. It's actually like wielding like a really classic kind of just like Navy and sort of ground troops, and it just has like a massive militaristic force. And I think that what Gorm has done to enforce the blockade is actually just to have a significant naval presence constantly going around the perimeter. So I will draw something in just in the form of boats.
Nice. I am thinking that we probably created like a sensor network at least on our half. Would your home have let me create? I mean, the islands that I've already got it on here, some of them could arguably be part of your home, but I don't think lists really asked permission. It was more of like a forgiveness situation. But would you take any sensor networks within your home? Would you allow lists to build any sensor networks within your home?
Yeah, I think regardless of the growing concerns, I think that Liss is actually a really close trade partner and ally of Gorm, and so I think as soon as the first like the rift first opens, there's a lot of collaboration that did happen. I mean, heck, maybe that was like part of taking the the plans was expanded permission for
Yes.
Liss to enter into
Yes.
Gorm.
Yes, totally. And these sensor networks are totally just for listening to kaiju. They're not for listening to anything else. They're not for spying or any kind of like secrets or any of that stuff. Okay, cool.
Course,
Thank you.
of course.
Thank you for letting me build these here. That's perfect. Cool. Great. So we've got some sensors. We've got some boats. That's awesome. One last question. What is the entrance to the rift? We can roll or choose from these options that we have here as a group, and then we get to draw it in the center of the map. So do you want to roll or choose?
Let's roll for it. Let's roll
Okay.
for it.
Can you roll a
see
dice,
how we
please?
go. Yep. D6. I got a 1.
It's an ominous hole in the ground. Can you draw that in the center, please?
Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna use black for anything kaiju related. So an ominous hole in the ground. Interesting. Like I'm thinking like it's actually a like perfect an oddly perfect kind of void circle that resides right there. And it's not completely black. It almost has like a sort of ribbedness inside that's just like creepy, like kind of like a fish mouth.
Oh, gross. Yeah. Kind of organic.
Yeah, but it doesn't it's like a black gray, not kind of any organic color. It's just like a strange black gray, almost like you're looking into it and it's just void of color.
Cool. That's awesome. Nice. That sounds very creepy. Appropriate for these kaiju, I think. Awesome. Now, there is one other thing that we need to do before we jump into our preparation, and that is creating the kaiju. Obviously, I am going to be your enemy kaiju, and you are going to be my enemy kaiju. But when we create the kaiju, we should keep these things secret because obviously the kaiju are best kind of revealed later on. We can foreshadow. We could have evidence come up during preparation or dreams, or feel free to jump into my story and add a little bit of flavor if you want, and vice versa. But really, this stuff should kind of be revealed in the showdown at the end. So why don't we take a second, and we will create our kaiju. Now we could, if we wanted, write these on our pilot sheets, and then just fold it over. But because we're doing this in a virtual whiteboard, and I want to keep it secret, I'm just going to write it on a piece of paper.
I'll do the same.
Cool.
Yep. I'm gonna roll for mine.
So am I.
That's good.
Cool. Okay. So before we get into our preparation moves, there's just one other thing. We need to embrace our connection. So starting with you as the first player, envision your pilot and your connection just as the front begins.
Yeah, I think so there's sensor rumblings that are leading to the Seraphim family looking at the rift. So there's been a year of preparations where I think Lily's mother, her name is Anna. So Anna has been helming this organization, and they are very focused around the rift. They're coordinating the boats, everything, and there's this giant command room that she spends most of her time in, and there's all these sort of sensors and like screens and things like that. And I think that at the time that all of this is starting to begin, I think Lily walks into the command room and is kind of like, you summoned me, mother. And she's like, yes, like it's something is happening at the rift. And she's like, okay. And so the two of them are walking, and there's just like a tension that still exists between them. But I think that as they get to the warehouse where Exarch is housed, I think that Lily has spent hundreds of hours, like let's say thousands of hours with Exarch over the last year, or 1,000 hours, as much as you possibly could. It's still sort of like held tightly by Anna and like the Serafco organization. And I think that the Anna's like, remember, like the most important thing is to preserve the suit. Don't do anything outside of what we tactically recommend. We're going to be like in your ear the whole time, and like hands are like a communicator and stuff like that. And you can see that Lily is like looking at this and like she's nodding because she realizes the gravity of the situation. But there's also part of it you can see in her eyes is just like that frustration that she just feels like, why is my like mom gripping like everything about this so tightly? And I think that at the end of that, Lily's like, listen, I've got this. And her mom is like, that's exactly what your father would have said. Please, like, listen to what I'm saying. And I think that's the end of the kind of setup there.
Sweet. It's awesome. Just protect the suit, please.
Yeah, exactly. Protect our investment.
That's great. That's great. Cool. Nice. Okay, I think likewise for Kit and Sola, I think that Kit is getting suited up. I think, they've got their personal kind of like, bodysuit slash, thing that has all the wires that'll connect into the actual inside of the cockpit of the mech. They are walking up towards Luna Helix. And I think Sola is there too. Sola's obviously being trained for one of those other mechs that are in the background. But Sola is not the primary first pilot being chosen here. Kit is. And despite that, little bit of competitiveness, despite that tension, when they approach each other and Sola realizes that Kit may be going off for the last time, there's a little bit of a pause, and I think that competitiveness goes away for a second. They shake each other's hand, even though they probably would want to embrace each other, but they don't. They keep it very professional. They shake each other's hand, and Kit goes down the rest of the catwalk into the cockpit of Luna Helix. I think that's it.
That's awesome. And would anyone else have ever gone in Luna Helix? Just a quick question. Like, or is it entirely Kit's?
I think, yeah, let's say that they, meticulous wise, they probably had some testers and stuff, but nobody could pilot it as well as Kit. There's people that did, beta tests of some of the walking features and some of the weapon systems and stuff. But obviously, only to test it basically 24 hours around the clock, when Kit's not there. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Cool. So since we've seen our connection for the last time, we need to each make 3 preparation moves. We can either study the kaiju, rally the people, build an outpost, unite the nations, search the aether, or gear up. And really, it gives us a lot of flexibility to do that within it. We build up our dice pool through these preparation moves, and we'll kind of see that as it happens. And but yeah, let's start with you, Matt. What do you think that Lily is going to do for her first preparation move?
I think the first preparation move is definitely going to be study the kaiju.
Cool.
And so I forget, should I set up what I'm what I'm intending to do before rolling, or should I roll and then describe?
The best way to do it is to envision what you were doing. Then you roll to determine if it's successful or if there's a complication or if it's, an utter failure. And then you draw on it afterwards and kind of, you can say maybe why it was so good or why it was so bad afterwards. So envision, then roll, and then draw and kind of think about the outcome afterwards.
Okay. So what I imagine is that this sortie to study the kaiju is because there's range sensors. There's some information that something's happening in the rift, but we don't actually know what it is. And so Lily is going on really her first kind of mission to look at to just get a closer look and essentially bring additional sensors to do this. And those sensors are a small fleet of like piloted craft. And so what I imagine is that we see kind of her moving forward as like there's this squad of other craft that are behind her and just getting closer and closer under the water towards the rift. And she's over communicators with these other pilots of not mechs, but I think that they're just some vessels, submersible vessels that are going along with her. And she's sort of commanding them and telling them to keep their eyes out. And then over her communicator, she hears like her mother's voice, and her mom's just like, "All right, Lily, remember as you get closer, let the like sensor techs advance forward. Your job is to lead, not to engage anything that we might run into." And Lily is just like, "Where is Lieutenant Alvarez?" And her mom's like, "I've decided to take a stronger hand in the command room. I'll be the one running point on these communications going forward."
Thanks,
And
Mom.
I think, yeah, exactly. And Lily just rolls her eyes in her suit, and that's the moment that they get close to the rift. And so, what am I rolling here, Nick?
Yeah, so let's take a quick look at your sheet here. So you always start with one boon dice. Everyone always gets to roll at least one boon dice. You can add an extra boon dice if you have a related upgrade. So which movie you're making? You're making Study the Kaiju?
Yep.
And that one, you don't. You have a monument, which helps rally the people, right? So you don't get an extra dice for this. So basically, you're just rolling one boon dice right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm rolling it. I got a 3. So
Okay. One. So for listeners, 1, 2, 3 is a failure. 4 and 5 is a partial success, and a 6 is a full success. You have some options though. You can either accept your failure, or you can improvise, or remember what you fight for.
yeah, I think I am going to improvise.
Mm-hmm.
So I get to, in this case, I can re-roll 1.
That's correct.
Because I only have 1 die, so this is a tricky one. So I'm going to improvise, and I think that the way that looks is that there's just a lot of chatter coming through and description about like how to approach this thing, and Lily just reaches over and I think like switches off the communicator and like some of the other things that have been added in the mech. And then I re-roll, and ooh, I have also still failed. So
What'd you roll?
yeah, I think that I rolled a 2. So I think what it looks like is inexperience. This is the first time she's going out in this mech beyond anything that's like sort of comfortable. And I think that she leads this group of sort of sensor individuals towards first what she's being directed towards, but then when she turns off the communicator, she leads them towards something that she thinks is noteworthy. It's like there's this sort of strange glow in the distance, but it ends up just being some seismic disturbance at the bottom of the ocean. And so she's just basically like led them away from where they can gather the information. And when they return back to where the sensors were originally blipping, there's nothing.
Should have listened to your mom.
Yeah.
Can you mark a Bane symbol on your preparation track, and then let's draw and see what that looks like on the map, or how you want to represent it on the map?
Yes. And how do I represent this on the map, Nick? Is it?
It's up to you. I mean, it can be a symbol. It can be a intricate drawing. It's kind of up to you how you want to represent your ability to search, or study the kaiju.
think it's just going to be a veer off course here.
I also think that as you are doing this, your sensors do pick up little blips here and there. And I think this is actually partially why you go off course. You don't see anything. Like there's nothing obvious there, but your sensors kind of are saying that something's there when nothing seems to be there. This might be contributing to your confusion.
Interesting. Yeah. I think that doesn't help Lily sleep at night. She she just feels like a failure. But I hear what you're saying and I dig it.
Okay, cool. Sweet. Okay, what do I want to do for this? I think the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to build a base. And I think that because Luna Helix has the arc generator weapon, electricity is kind of an important component, and probably it's a little bit hard to store, at least at the level of output. Right? It's probably a pretty powerful weapon. I think that there needs to be some kind of like connection to another system. So I am going to create a little electrical base that's kind of on New Valen, or where New Valen was, and basically it's connecting like it's kind of like a remote electrical field connector to Luna Helix, and it probably also connects over to the High Tovar area as well. Would you be willing to help me with this? Can you? I would like to use an extra die. Would you be willing to help me with this?
Absolutely. I think this seems like a great collab between our nations, in fact.
How is your nation helping?
Well, I think that these naval vessels, they can assist with running the lines and protecting any kind of like deep sea operations that need to happen in those waters. Regardless of the rift, there's also just some potential dangerous stuff in these waters that the Navy can protect them from, and I think that that's how we assist.
Cool. Okay, so I'm gonna roll. I've got two boon dice. Let's see. So I got a 5 and a 3, which isn't bad. Basically, that means that I get a partial success, and so I'm gonna mark that over on my pilot sheet here. Partial success is just a boon symbol and a bane symbol over here. And let's draw that in. I think what that actually is going to look like is an electrical base right here. And I think it's also just going to like connect into like a secondary electrical base. So let's connect those two together. It was a partial success, right? So I mean, I think it does help me charge, but I think that what is the complication here? I think that it's probably
I can suggest one.
Yeah, go for it.
In the sense that when the Seraphim Navy comes in to help, there's a certain tacit like negotiation that starts that we nudge into also wanting to be connected to that line of power. And so you don't get like the same amount of power because as your ally, it just makes sense that we would also kind of be able to benefit from this in these difficult times.
Of course. That really throws off our meticulous planning, by the way. I just want you to know that this ask is making us fume in meticulous way.
The exact amount you needed.
Totally. Exactly.
That's a little too low.
Sweet. Good. Sweet. Okay, so I've built a base. That's great. What do you want to do for your second preparation move?
So I'm going to rally the people. So what I imagine is that after the news that there was something happening in the rift, there was immediately essentially a meeting of the different houses, and I think that Liss is also invited to this. I'm thinking it's at the Seraphim Research Institute. Mm-hmm. There's luxurious conference rooms there, and it's called to basically bring together all of the different leaders of anywhere around the rift, be it houses or lists, to collaborate on just understanding the kaiju and this mysterious situation that we're in, and kind of share information. I don't know whether, like, would lists attend that, and like what would their kind of representation be there?
I think they would. I think they would send somebody who is probably a scientist, who does not say a lot but listens a lot, who takes a lot of notes. Yeah, I think what are you saying to them? What are they hearing in this kind of discussion?
I think that they are hearing transparent sharing of kind of sensor data. Like, we've seen seismic readings that are unusual. We've picked up on kind of like a pattern of certain occurrences, and here's the mapping of what our sensors have picked up. We're just sharing like data, and we're asking, like, is anyone else willing to like share data and collaborate so that we're all working together? Is what the Seraphim or Serafco is trying to organize with this. And what I'm trying to do is rally the people. I'm not asking to team up in this instance, but that's the general situation.
Yeah, that's sweet. I mean, we'll share some data. I think you should roll, and we'll see how good it is.
Yeah. Okay. So in this instance, I'm rolling 2 boon dice and 1 bane die, because I have 1 bane die at this time.
And you you've got 1 boon normally. You get the bane from your previous preparation, and you get an extra boon because you are rallying the people, and you have a monument.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're rallying in the monument. Okay. So my bane die is a 1, and my boon dice are a 3 and a 6. So
nice.
I believe I get +1 boon, and that is a success.
Yeah, you get to mark a boon symbol on your preparation track. Well, let me throw in what List does in that. I think List does give you the information. I feel like List needs to keep you close, especially considering that very soon you're going to figure out that a mech has been kind of technologically stolen from you. So we need to make sure you are as happy as possible when that news comes out.
I don't know if this happens, but it would be kind of funny if during that you were like, maybe share some of this like mech technology with us and we can help for some plausible deniability.
Of course.
And I think we're like, no, never.
Of course. Yeah. Sweet. Where are you going to mark that on the map here?
I think maybe I'm just going to put a couple of flags on top of the Seraphim Research Institute to denote kind of that multiple nations visited there.
I like that. Especially like that you're using the different colors to represent the different nations.
Yeah.
Sweet. Anything else you want to complete that preparation with?
Yeah, I think I'm good. Although Lily would be there, mostly like a fly on the wall. I don't know if that would be. It sounds like Kit would not be there, and likewise Sola would not be there. So I think this is one of the first times that Lily has ever interacted with anyone from Lys. Is the only thing I would add there. But
nice. So I think for my second preparation move, I think I want to study the kaiju. I think that since we've helped set up this kind of electrical base, we've been trying to keep the mech out of sight of your ships and whatnot. I mean, just to delay the inevitable diplomatic issue that'll arise from it. But I do think that that Kit is taking Luna Helix between the different islands that are there, and I believe that it's basically trying to look for evidence if there has been any kaiju that have come out recently or that have been lurking around but haven't attacked yet. So I'm kind of searching for evidence in the kind of like bottom left quadrant of the blockade there. I think that, Luna Helix can go underwater at least for a certain period of time. So it could be like underwater evidence or near shore evidence. But I think that's what I'm doing.
Hmm.
I get to roll because my previous preparation was decent. So I'm going to get 2 boon dice and 1 bane dice when I roll this. I don't get any extras from anything. So let's see what happens. Ooh, so I rolled a 5 and a 6 on my boon dice, but I rolled a 5 on my bane dice. So that gets canceled, but it does still leave me with a 6, which is a success. So that's good. I'm curious. Would you be willing to tell me a little bit about what I find here?
Yeah. So I think as you travel to that outskirt, there's you're traveling along this beautiful underwater vista of coral reefs and vegetation and plant life and all this sort of stuff. And then it's like you step one step further, and what you see before you is a wasteland. And it's almost like just a graveyard of everything that once was there. And there's a sort of radius of just death that travels along a whole field before you. And it looks like it leads back towards the rift.
Sweet. Um, can I want to draw it kind of like in here, maybe? Is this kind of where it is?
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect.
Like a dead field.
Yeah. I'm just going to put little X's in here to mark that it's all kind of like dead in that area. Totally fine. I'm sure that's not a problem at all. That seems very, very reasonable. Sweet. Cool. So I find that as kind of disconcerting as it is, this is a success. So I think this is helping me prepare. I mean, I'm meticulous. I study things. I need information to make good decisions down the road. And if anything, this is good information. All right. Awesome. So you have your last preparation move to do. What do you think you're going to do?
Yeah, I think for the last preparation move, what I do is I think gear up. So what I'm imagining, I'm not sure that this is going to reach the sort of climax that I'm not sure when this is going to reach the climax of us knowing about Lys's mech, but I think that there's a moment where in Spire 7, there's just like a boardroom meeting. Or no, it's in a laboratory. So there's like one of these labs where essentially there's an argument between some of the lab techs and Anna Seraphim about making changes to Exarch. And so essentially this department is, there's some scientists like, we know that some of these trusted secrets have been taken. So there's been hackers, like there's been like individuals accessing our trusted data stores. We know that things are being stolen. There's things that are being built on Exarch's technology. Like if we're going to keep up, or for that matter, like even have a chance of fighting whatever comes out of the rift, we need to be ready to do anything. And there's other people like, Anna might be like, blasphemy. We can't change the technology of Gorm. We don't even understand it to begin with. Like it's something like we need to leverage it and use it, but it is a hard line that we cannot make these changes. Or maybe it's not Anna that says that reaction. It's like an argument between these two lab techs. And then Anna, the sort of CEO of this company, is sitting there. And so is Lily. And I think there's a moment where Anna turns to Lily and says, "What do you think? It's your decision." And I think that Lily looks off and says, as long as we change nothing about Exarch, I think there's nothing wrong with making a couple additions. And that's the gear up moment that these lab techs are like, here we're going to do this. So I'm going to roll 2 boon, 1 bane.
Yep.
Ooh. it does not go well. So I rolled a 6 on my boon die, but also a 6 on my bane die. So those two cancel each other out. And I rolled a 1 on my other boon die. So I'm actually considering. So I've already used my improvise. Now I can remember why I fight. So after any roll, envision a brief moment with your connection. Reroll all dice. I think that there is a moment where, as soon as Lily says, "Let's make some additions," that the lab techs begin just like going into a frenzy of like, oh my God, I can finally do all the things to Exarch that I've always imagined. And they're doing things like, adding like extra armor. They're adding like all this sort of stuff. And I think Anna brings Lily aside and says like, hey, I can see that like you're concerned about something here. When I said it's your decision, it is. You tell them what we're doing and they will do it. You're the one who knows Exarch. And I think that's the moment where like Lily kind of like nods and smiles at her mom. And then she walks over and is like, scrap that. That's not happening. But I'm going to re-roll one of my...
Got to re-roll it all?
So I can re-roll it all, including the bane dice. Okay.
Yep. Got to re-roll it all.
Yep. All right. So I got a 6 and a 1 on my boon dice and a 2 on my bane.
Ooh, there
and
you
so
go.
I have a 6. Thus, that was a success. And I think that there are just a series of useful additions that are added in. For example, like sensors that are on board inside the Mech, and a couple of other improvements I won't go into in detail. And I get a additional boon.
Nice. That's pretty good. That's a key use of that. You're not going to have it for later, but it's a good use of it now.
I don't want those banes, Nick. I'm down to burn through my abilities just to not have those banes.
I think that's a
good choice. I don't know.
That's a reasonable choice,
And I don't think I have anything to add to that scene. There were additions to it. And in terms of representing it on the map, I think it all happens in Inspire 7. But perhaps as part of that process, there is also just the sort of a couple of additions that happen to the command center within Inspire 7. So I'm just going to represent the command center here.
Nice. Are you doing that in Inspire 7 as well? Oh,
yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Wait,
it's right at the top. It's like the top floor.
Of course. I get a very like Isengard vibe from Spire 7. Sweet. Cool. Good preparation. I mean, you what did you end up with? You have 3 boon dice and 1 bane dice at the end of that. That's not bad. It's not bad considering your start too. Cool. I think, I'm the engineer. I have to gear up as my last move. And I think that what this looks like is our sensor network that is around the blockade that has been installed in your home is picking up information that you are doing upgrades to your mech. And again, we're meticulous, but we aren't, I don't know, we don't think of ourselves as infinitely smart or better than anyone else per se. But I do think that when we hear that you, the mech creators, are doing additional weapons and things onto your mech or things onto your mech, we want to do the same, or we think we should probably follow. So I think that's what's happening. we bring Luna Helix back to the dome for a quick retrofit of a couple systems. What were some systems you said specifically? What was the one that you mentioned for your mech?
There's advanced sensors. So like some of the sensors that were picking up information that was interesting to the command center, they onboarded that into the mech.
Nice.
And I didn't mention any others.
That's
so,
advanced sensors is great. So I think we want to update some of our sensors as well. Let's see. So I'm going to take a quick look over here. I'm not rolling too bad either. I've got 3 boon dice and 1 bane dice. Let's see. Uh-oh. I have a 2, a 3, and a 4 for my boon dice, and I have a 4 for my bane dice. So
you got a 2 and a 3.
Yeah. You know what? I think I'm going to improvise. I think that we get the relays from our intel, our surveillance on your home that says, hey, they're upgrading their sensor systems. And I think that just before they get installed, I think that Kit is looking them over and Kit says, no, this isn't how Luna Helix is going to work. This will mess with the electrical systems. This will mess with all of the other things. The arc-like generator takes way too much power for this to work. You need to change this. And so basically I'm going to re-roll that 4 with my improvise to try and get something better. I rolled another 4. So it doesn't matter. 3 is my highest, which means that I mark a Bane for my last preparation. What does this look like? I think that what this looks like is, well, it's going to happen over by the dome first off. We are giving up too much of our meticulous control. We are like listening to what you're doing. We're thinking that we're giving you a bit like maybe too much I don't know, too much ownership over this, even though we should be controlling this. We should be in charge. Our meticulous nature says that we shouldn't be listening to others. We should be doing what we think is right. And in this time we didn't. And so a system gets installed, a sensor system gets installed that is for lack of a better word, janky. And it basically like whenever the arc light system goes to full power, some other parts of Luna Helix start to fritz out basically. And I'm gonna mark that just with a little electrical system that's over here to like connect to Luna Helix, but it's kind of disconnected a little bit. There. Okay. Not the preparation that I wanted to end with, but not the end of the world. So we've prepared. We've got all of our dice pools for our last thing. What is your dice pool going into the showdown, Matt?
So I will have 3 boon dice and 1 bane die, I believe.
That's not bad. That's pretty good. Let's take a look at mine. I'm going to have 3 boon dice and 2 bane dice. So similar to yours, but a little bit worse because I've got those extra bane dice. Yeah. All right. So I think with that, let's jump into the showdown. So now for the showdown, similar to everything before, except it is the final fight with the Kaiju. So to start, Matt, obviously, you get to pick the location that the fight begins in. It's probably going to begin within the blockade since that's closest to the rift. So, think about the location of where your mech and pilot are starting. Think about your mech's approach. And then once you kind of set up that, I'm going to reveal the Kaiju. So why don't you take us away?
Yeah. So what I imagine is that the sensors indicate a sort of general mass that's moving from the rift in the direction of the catacombs of Gorm, is sort of towards the top right island here. And so it's moving along, and I think it's just about to reach like these naval vessels that are on the outskirts. And this, like I say, there's a massive military, and these are trained, well provisioned soldiers and navy, and I think that there's just this moment where this boat is preparing for what's coming, but they're also like feeding home this information to Serafco, and back in the command center, it's like sirens blaring, and Lily is strapping into Exarch. And I think that like I'm trying to imagine how Exarch moves around very quickly, but I think that there is there's essentially just like a super high speed airlift kind of vessel that picks it up and is just like immediately flying from Spire 7 directly towards that area of the ocean.
Nice. Cool. So can I add a little something onto here? Is it like over here where you think the kaiju is coming from?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Whereabouts is Exarch standing, sitting, approaching? Whereabouts on the map?
I think Exarch is coming sort of along this vector and is trying to intercept, like, I'm imagining like this boat here is the one that Exarch is trying to get to, and that's the boat that is staring directly at something.
Sweet.
Even though it's under the water.
Sure. So let me paint the scene for the kaiju then. I think that you see the boat off in the distance. I think you see, and you can hear maybe over the chatter on your boat, some of the standard radio comms. You hear that nervousness in their voices, and all of a sudden, from your vantage point, you see it first, and then the radio comms pick it up a second later. You see waves start to crest a little bit above the water. And it's hard to make out because the waves start off small and they get larger and larger and larger until you think that something huge is breaching the water, but you don't see anything. All you see is a large space where something should be. And then 2 seconds later, the radio chatter and the worried voices over the boat go out as the boat gets basically clawed in half and pulled underneath the water by something.
Yeah, I think like seeing this from the air, so as the Exarch dropship is just about to like drop Exarch, I think that there's other forces that are like coming into this region, and Exarch and the dropship are coming above it, and I think Lily is just looking down on this. And as she sees it with her eyes, she blinks, and she speaks into her communicator and says, pull back the forces. There's no visuals of whatever this is. And her mom is like, no, remember, your position here is to lead. Make sure to keep formations, provide information, and handle situations as they arrive. But it is not your role to jump directly into this. And she says, yes, it is. And I think there's a big lever on this Exarch dropship, and as she's sort of flying with it, she just pulls the lever and drops, sailing through the air towards the general vicinity of this. And I think as she's falling, free falling through the sky, she's looking out, but then she taps a couple of buttons on the keypad of one of these additional systems. And I think that similar to Predator's vision, cycling through different modes, she's cycling through all these different kinds of modes of just collecting light or other sensor information to this thing. And she eventually lands on one that I think just catches a faint shimmer of something.
It's a good thing you installed those extra sensor systems, because
Totally.
You get to see a massive hulking kaiju. It looks kind of like a long, lean panther, except it has all of these spikes that are protruding from its back, almost like a porcupine if the spikes were thicker and there was less of them. And you make it out in its like kind of shimmering blue form because its trait is invisibility. And I don't know how your system comes up with it, but your HUD says Kaiju identified Shadow Ma. And I think at that same point, you see the boat beginning to sink, and you see that Shadow Ma's attention turns to you as you drop into the water, and Shadow Ma begins its wave towards you. And when you're ready, feel free to start rolling your first attack.
Okay, so I think as Lily and Exarch plunge into the waves, where it was like clearer from above, in the ocean it's actually like harder to see Shadow Ma. And I think that she just like, in her mind, it sort of harkens back to that like moment before she comes out to the boxing ring, where she just like imagines this sort of like chance in the air. And then, but like the moment she hits the water, there's just like a sort of calm silence that like just envelops Exarch. And so she sinks down to the bottom, and there's beeping, there's like all these sort of sensor chatter and like stuff on the view screen, and she can't see where it is until it's right on her. And so I think I'm gonna roll. And what am I rolling here, Nick? I'm just rolling all of my boon and bane dice, correct?
That's right. So if we look at your sheet, you've got 3 boon and 1 bane that you've accumulated through preparation. So that's what you roll.
Okay, here we go. Oh, so I rolled 6, 4, and a 5 on my boon dice, and I rolled a 5 on my bane. So the 2 5s cancel each other, and I have a 6 and a 4.
Oh, amazing. So if the 2 5s cancel each other, remove those dice from your dice pool. That's
Okay.
your mech kind of deteriorating. So you won't have either of those available for your next rolls. But you said you rolled a 6, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
So that does one damage to the kaiju. So if you want to mark that on your kaiju, if you want to put the kaiju name that you're fighting on your sheet as well, and tell me what it looks like as you obviously Shadow Ma basically is upon you. Its large kind of panther-like arms swimming through the water and coming out to grasp you pretty tightly around your mech frame. What does this look like?
I think that the range at which Lily and Exarch can detect this thing under the water, Shadow Maw can only be seen like within, I want to say like 10 meters or something. And the speed at which it moves, that's no time whatsoever to react. And I imagine that it's sort of like it's a evasive kind of hunter where it darts in and out. And so I imagine that initially it darts right in and Lily is caught completely off guard, where it just like pounds the side of Exarch, staggering her. And so she sinks in once again and just like waits like a tiger ready to strike. And the next time it comes in, she returns exactly the same force, staggering it and knocking its attack off to the side. So when it comes in, she just like redirects it and smokes it right along the side of its maw.
Sweet, nice. It's going to keep coming at you. I mean, are we keeping this fight in the same spot? Because I didn't do any damage to you, so I'm not moving it one front closer. Are we keeping it in the same spot?
Yeah, I think I imagine that was like happening outside of the wreckage of the boat. Lily takes a series of steps right towards the wreckage, and basically she surveys it quickly, and then like really briefly like goes on comms and says, "Commander, any survivors will be in the wreckage at the coordinates that I've like uploaded. I'm moving further to the north." And then tries to move away from the wreckage to basically give a chance for any kind of like rescue to happen.
Cool.
Yeah.
When you're ready, roll that next showdown move.
Another pretty solid roll. I got a 6 and a 4. And
a 6 and a 4, eh? Okay. Okay. I like this. I like this. Yeah. I think Shadow Maw is obviously clawing at you, still trying to rip as you kind of move away from the ship. Shadow Maw is following you. Its focus is definitely upon you rather than anything else that's here.
Yeah. I think that Lily's been preparing for this moment her entire life. She's like, it's almost like this is freeing for her, where she's imagining like everything about her lost father and her brothers, all the kind of like frustrations that she had with her family seem like so petty in this moment, and like all it that like comes to her mind is just like a sort of superhuman clenching of her fists. And it feels good every time she lands a strike on this massive creature.
Nice.
So far, she hasn't like felt the sting of fear. She's feeling more just like rage at all the loss that this thing's bloodline has delivered to Gorm.
Totally. Mark another health off of Shadow Maw and set up the next showdown move when you're ready.
Okay, let's see how this goes. I think that, I got a 6 and a 5.
6 and a 5 again. I think that with a 6 and a 5, yeah, that's quite good. But it is time for Shadow Maw to use its ultimate power.
Oh no!
So kind of set me up. What are you doing to it?
I think that while initially Shadow Maw was sort of moving as though it was invulnerable, coming in and out, once Lily got a bead on it and started striking it, she not only prepared to strike it, but also began to follow it. And I think that Exarch is not just waiting for it to strike, it's actually like she's hunting Shadow Maw. And so she is pursuing it every time it darts or moves and continuing to just pummel it with blows from her suit's katars. And I think that like there's something with these Gorm-sourced suits that they are synchronized to a certain extent with their pilots. And as she feels more and more rage, those etchings that are along the suit's body, as well as the katars themselves, are glowing with a kind of like inner heat and sheen as she strikes into this thing. So that's where we're at.
Sweet. I think as you come in and get close, it once again tries to wrap its large arms around you and pull you close. And I think that the spikes that are all along its back that you can start to see kind of shimmer begin to almost move through its body and begin to press against against your mech suit as it's pulling you close. The spikes are basically coming in and going on the opposite side of the kaiju, trying to impale you. I'm going to use the ultimate move ultimate power special move. So I'm going to roll 4 Bane dice, and I'm going to try to cancel out both your 5 and 6. Let's see what happens.
All right.
Wow, not this one. I rolled a 1, a 1, a 2, and a 4. Tell me what it looks like when you kill it.
I think that it's wrapping around Exarch, and I can hear in Exarch the groaning of like metal getting closer and closer to being crushed. And I think that as it gets closer and closer, Lily musters like a final burst of strength to just throw her arms up and break the hold, and it staggers Shadow Maw such that it opens up like a sort of core of its heart. And maybe even though you can't see it, Lily can see in this moment when Shadow Maw is fully kind of like open, there's a glimmer of something at its core that is like its heart.
Nice.
And this glowing piece, I think that Lily, she just says, my name is Liliana Seraphim. You killed my father and my brothers. And now it is time for you to die. And punches right into its heart.
Awesome. That's sweet. Can you draw the kaiju remains on the map where you think that are, or do you want me to draw them? Just point out where you want them and I can draw them.
I'm just trying to think of what like an invisible kaiju's remains are, and I love the idea that it stays invisible forever.
Oh, I agree.
They're just there, but
100%. Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Is it still in between where those two lines meet, or is it closer to Civita?
Yeah, I think we went further north from there was what she said. So perhaps it's a good spot might actually be like here is what I'm thinking. We're closer, but in this bay. And so you said it sort of had the form of a panther, right?
Yeah. Do you want me to draw it, or do you want to draw it?
Yeah, you know what? You go ahead, because you've got a good idea in your mind's eye of what it would look like.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be pretty simple. It's going to be this and this and this and this and panther tail, a bunch of spikes, and a massive kaiju head. And then obviously, dead.
Yeah, right in the heart.
Shadow Maw. Dead over here. Wow, you rolled super hot. You were only rolling sixes. That's wild.
Yeah, these two dice, I'm going to set them aside because I think they're special.
Yeah, of course. That's awesome. Cool. I'm really excited to see how Liliana comes back to it in the aftermath. Oh, sweet. Cool. Okay, are you ready for Kit and Luna Helix?
I am. Yep.
Okay, so let's see. I think that Kit and Luna Helix, with the preparation kind of like all around, getting the extra electricity for the arc field powering. What else did I do? I studied that kaiju around that kind of like desolate field, and I tried to update my sensors with your tech, but that started to fritz things out. So I think that Luna Helix is actually standing close to where New Valen was and where that electrical kind of base has been constructed. And I think that Luna Helix is charging. I think basically Luna Helix is powering up, or even perhaps, in perhaps not a great idea, slightly overcharging his mech because he knows what's about to come. So Luna Helix is standing there, absorbing the electrical fields and looking out over the water, specifically over that area that was desolate. What does he see?
I think that so previous times you've stepped into this area, you just see the aftermath. But I think as you charge forward for the first time, you see an immense cloud of shimmering green-black ichor, some kind of like liquid, oily substance that floats throughout the ocean waters. And as you see it touch upon anything living, it just shrivels it away like acid. And it kills everything that it touches. And as you stand at the precipice of this, you feel a gust of some movement in the water that just pushes the cloud to envelop you. And I think that it doesn't immediately cause any kind of problems to the system, but you can feel that there's something dangerous about this cloud. And you can see within it something is moving, and what it looks like is a long billowing curtain that flows from a single point, floating throughout the water. And as you follow it, you see the curtains billow out, and you get your first glimpse of Deathcloak.
Sweet. Deathcloak. That sounds super terrifying. Okay. I think that Luna Helix understands that there is no time like the present. All the preparation has been done. My meticulous nature says that I need to attack, and so Luna Helix jumps small rocket boosters that are probably on its back that haven't been mentioned until now, glide it over top of the water, and it begins to put all four arms out. Its hands begin to charge with electrical energy, and all the arcs start to circle around it as it approaches. And let's roll and see what happens. So I've got 3 boon dice and 2 bane dice. Oh boy. I got a 4, a 2, and a 3 on my boons, and I got a 1 and a 3 on my banes. So the 3s remove each other, but that leaves me with a 4 as my highest, which is basically 1 health off of the Mech and 1 health off of Deathclaw. So I imagine that Luna Helix actually does jump in, gets close to Deathclaw with its rocket boosters, and it basically like gets in close and tries to wrap its arms to create like an arc around where Deathcloak is. I imagine it probably does shred a little bit of Deathcloak, or perhaps I don't know what it looks like, but that's what I'm doing to you to take 1 health off. What does it look like what Deathcloak's doing to me?
Totally. I think you get your arms around it and establish the arc that begins to shred the parts of the cloak. But the very top of the cloak, where one would envision the head would be, the cloak sort of wraps back, and you see where a face might be on a head. There's just a open maw, like a sort of conduit, an opening. Similar to the rift itself, in fact, except more organic. And it begins to shudder. And from that maw, toxic sludge and gas starts to flow out all over you. And you just start to hear like warning beeps.
Oh, gosh. Crazy. This I feel like it's like a lamprey or something.
Totally. The mouth has a lamprey-like vibe to it, I think.
Cool. So because you did 1 damage to me, I imagine that the fight was probably down close to the bottom left where that plane of desolate destruction is. But you get to move the fight closer into my home. Which direction are you kind of going in? Where you are bringing it outside of the blockade into the home front?
I think it's actually heading towards High Tover, and I think that there's something about it that's actually it is damaged by the electrical arcs, but there's something about it that's attracted to the electrical lines that you've set up between the former New Valen and High Tover.
Sweet. Nice. So I imagine we're kind of like going this way. As you float onwards, obviously Luna Helix is not going to let that fly, and pursues you. Are you pretty fast? Are you like a floating cloak thing? Are you fairly fast?
Yeah, so there's moments where it just billows and almost seems not to be moving at all, but when it contracts into like a tight form, it can generate an enormous amount of velocity because it becomes so small, and it also has so much surface area, so it does go fast.
Nice. Cool. Okay. I think I'm chasing after you as fast as I can. The arms are out. The arcs are sparking, but I'm seeing the internal reserve meter go down. I'm starting to feel the power lessen between the arcs in my hands as I try to catch up to you. And I'm going to roll for my second showdown move. I've got 2 Bane dice and 1 Boon dice here. Oh, Jesus. I have a 3 and a 2 on my Boon dice, and I have a 3 on my Bane dice, which basically 2 would cancel, leaves me with 1. You would do enough damage to me to kill me. But I think that I need to remember why I fight. And I think that as I'm catching up to this, and I realize how fast you are, and as I get close, I see the energy reserves dwindling. I recognize that I am in a losing position here. But the thing that I remember is I've often been in a losing position when competing with Sola. And I remember the fights with Sola. I remember the training, even long ago, before any of these mechs came to be, that we would fight. And that Sola would have me pinned or have me at their mercy many times. But it was only through perseverance and resilience that I would come back and fight. And so I'm thinking of that, and I'm pushing, and I actually overcharge the arc light generator as I come close, and I'm going to reroll everything.
It's awesome. I feel like that's not standard procedure.
It's definitely not standard procedure. Oh, no. It's still okay. I've got 4/4 on my boons, and I've got a 3 on my bane, which would do 1 damage to you, and it would do 1 damage to me because a 4 is a 1 and a 1. It would destroy my mech. Let's take a look over here. Yeah, it would destroy my mech, but it might leave me within detonate core range. Do you want to do anything with this? Are we trading blows again?
Well, I think that what happens is that so Deathcloak rises to the top of the surface as you overcharge, and when it arrives, looking at High Tover, it just sees these 2 windmills, and there's a strange kind of intelligence hidden in that vacant
Lamprey Maw?
Lamprey Maw. And it just sort of like turns and looks towards the other continent along the edge, and it sinks back into the water and starts heading towards Freeport. And I think before it does that diversion, that's when you strike. And I would use my ultimate power, if you want to know what that is.
I do want to know what that is.
Yeah. And so I think that, like, as it rises up, it was underwater, but it unfurls all of its whole body, and it's massive. It's like a giant billowing black cloak. And as it reaches the top of the water, it flaps and it just takes flight. Like it floats up above the water, almost like a parachute caught on the wind. And the hood comes back, and you see that maw, and within it, there's like a rumbling, and it just projects a massive jet of pure poison so forcefully that it almost looks like a ray that slices right towards your mech.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
I need to roll 4 Bane dice.
You roll
correct?
4 Bane dice. I have 2 4s. So if you can get 2 4s, you can cancel out.
What does it look like when you get really lucky? Because I got 2 6s, a 3, and a 2.
Holy, okay. I think that it's tough because it's not really lucky. I think that you actually do manage to clip Luna Helix with your ray. Luna Helix is closing onto you. I'm going to basically mark the last 2 down here because my mech gets destroyed with this attack, but you're down to 1 health as well. So I think I do catch up to you. I grab, I dodge out of the way of the kind of the desolate poison vomit ray, and it catches the side of my mech. I think just to the left of the chest, and it actually cuts through a little bit of the energy reserve. And all of a sudden, Kit is looking at like the sensors going wild inside. I think there's actually a part of the bottom left of the cockpit that has been ripped open by this desolate array, or sorry, by this desolate ray that has been put there. And air is rushing into the cockpit. I know the mech is basically going to be going down, but I am now close to you, and I grab onto the cloak with one hand and pull myself in towards the maw with all four hands, the electrical energy now dissipating from them as it's being uncharged, and I am going to claw myself up towards the top of your lamprey maw mouth, and I am going to detonate my core. So
awesome.
I am a rank 1 pilot, which means that I get to roll 1 dice when I detonate my core. This means that my pilot and mech are definitely both going to die. But if I roll a 4 or a 5, I do 1 damage to you. If I roll a 6, I do 2 damage to you. So I'm looking for at least a 4. And I have no way to reroll this right now. Let's see. I rolled a 6. So I think that Luna Helix climbs all the way up. The sensors are going wild. I can see the like poisonous, corrosive nature eating away the cockpit below. The lights are flashing, and I think Kit just grabs on close to the maw. The maw is probably right in front of the mech's like view screens. It probably seems like I'm actually being eaten by this thing, and Kit perhaps wants this. And I think as the maw is kind of closing around Luna Helix, Kit says, "It's your turn, Sola," and flips the big red detonate button, presses it down as the mech enters into Deathcloak's mouth and just explodes in a massive shockwave, killing everybody, killing both you. So what is it? Damn.
That's awesome. I'm just trying to imagine what the giant the giant cloak would look like. I think it just billows to the ground.
Oh yeah.
Or billows to the water.
Oh, where was that though? You said that it was basically going towards whereabouts?
Yeah, it kind of diverted going this way. So I think probably it could have been here or here.
Yep. Why don't you draw where the kaiju is? To draw the remains, and I'll draw the mech beside it.
I think it might actually be like crazy massive once it's fully unfurled. Trying to get this as exploded as possible here. So this is like when it's fully unfurled, Deathcloak is like the size of a continent. It's like bigger than the tourist island.
Wow.
And I think that like I imagine that kaiju decompose very slowly, and so there's just this like massive ecological disaster that is a cloak that covers the ocean there and floats around.
Okay. At least I destroyed the kaiju. Didn't let any locations get destroyed. Vice versa for you. Not bad. Let's finish this off with the last thing that we need to do in our front, and that is the aftermath. So, starting with you, envision the aftermath in your home. This could be, a week or a month or even hours after it, but give me a little picture of what's going on in your home at the end of this front.
I think that, again, there's a scene of Lily arriving back to Spire 7, and there's a sense of just like euphoria and celebration that's happening throughout the houses and the nation of Gorm. And I think that as she arrives back to the tower, it reminds her of when she was returning there after about a year ago. And as she goes back up to her mother's office, this is going to be the first that she's seen her since the battle. And as she walks in, her mother is sitting there, and she is like, returning basically like the I don't want to say the keys, but she's part of this is returning Exarch to its home in Spire 7. And the first time she walks in, she's like, okay, all right, let's hear it. Like, you're going to give me a hard time for turning off my comms. You're going to give me a hard time for this. You're going to give me a hard time for that. Just lay it on me. In the end, like, I did what needed to be done. And I think her mom just like puts up her hand and says, I have nothing bad to say about that. I'm proud of you. And just like stands up and like gives her a hug. And the two of them have like a moment where the kaiju is destroyed. And that's something that's just like completely occupied their last year and also like taken so much from them. And I think that's just kind of the end scene of the Seraphims.
Oh, amazing. That's awesome. Yeah, mother and daughter, that's all they have left. Yeah, sweet.
Right at the top of Spire 7.
Of course. Sweet. I think for the aftermath in Liss, this is going to be in the dome, and I think it's going to be maybe a week later. I imagine that we see Sola standing now in their kind of like semi-armored suit as they're watching large pieces of Deathcloak be brought in to be studied in the dome, perhaps to be reverse engineered into certain weapons or whatnot. And as Sola is walking over towards their mech that is now being accelerated in construction, they take a look over to the large bay where Luna Helix once stood. And Sola stops and looks and just remembers Kit and thinks about Kit. But deep down, there's actually a worry because Sola thinks that Kit was better than them. And if Kit died, Sola isn't as confident. I think that's where it'll end there. Yeah. So that was a really fun that was a really fun front of home. Wild. What did you think?
I thought it was great, man. I really like our two nations. I love how they were very different and sort of contrasting each other, where there's like totally nepotistic Gorm, and then this sort of like techno meritocracy that's also like stealing ancient secrets from like the
definitely
the nepotistic Gorm. I thought our kaiju were really cool. I liked. I think it's interesting, an invisible kaiju. It was fun thinking of like how to battle that and what it would look like when it was dead. I thought it was a really interesting sort of direction. It was I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was sweet. That was really cool. I loved how the homes kind of went off of each other. I think that if we were to play these in the additional fronts, because there's two more fronts as we kind of dig into the rift, I feel like the stealing of the mech stuff would probably come more to the forefront after those years. I feel like our relationships between our homes might change a little bit. I especially love the like mother-daughter relationship. Having a daughter at home, I feel like that was quite accurate. It's awesome.
Yeah. Inspired by playing in my sister's room.
Yeah, totally. No, that was sweet. So we'll end it there. But Matt, thank you so much for playing with me. I really appreciate this. Maybe we'll get another one in the future.
Yeah, thank you. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks everyone. We'll chat with you soon.